That guy there, I'm just wrapped for him. I mean, he had a 13-13 finals record coming into tonight, so he slightly puts his nose in front. He's coached 330 odd games of footy, but the only ones that really matter is his 1-3 in grand finals. And I know it hurts him, and I know he's a proud man, and they've been disappointing in a couple of those grand finals. They just want to get back there. You don't have to beat 17 teams anymore. You just got to beat one. We don't know who that is yet, but you just got to beat one next Saturday afternoon.
A fifth decider and a chance to win a second flag. It would be an incredible achievement, Joey.
Well, they've just been so consistent. We've spoken about a few of these footy clubs that just continually show up year after year. They've bounced back from the devastation, I suppose, of the grand final of 2022. And no doubt there'll be so many of these players eager to sort of redeem themselves, Jason, perform on the big stage. And they are much more mature. They've all grown up. They've played a lot more footy together. And I think they're ready.
You're right, Joe, but until you get in another grand final, you can't redeem yourself. It doesn't matter how well you play elsewhere. You can have a great season the next year, but until you get back on that biggest of stages, that's the only place you can actually redeem yourself for a really poor grand final performance. Big seeing Callum Mills in amongst it all, the smiles. What a week he's facing to get himself up.
It looks really calm, though, Jace. I mean, they've just made the grand final. Clearly, they're elated with the performance, but this is very matter of fact. This is clinical in a way.
They've ticked off another rung on the ladder to what they're trying to achieve. That's all it is. They're keeping it in check. They know they've done well, but they've got bigger fish to fry.
We'll be talking about Callum Mills all week. He is the captain of the Sydney side and clearly in their best side, so we may as well start talking about it now. Given what happened with Reid and Longmire admitting after the game a couple of years ago that he made the wrong call there, do you think it'll make him more conservative? We know it'll only be 18 days, not the 21 you normally give for a hamstring.
Well, I think you just back the coach and you back the strength and conditioning department to not take a gamble that's going to run them into trouble and run them aground. Look, they're big decisions, and that's why you pay the big bucks for these guys. You just trust them. Outside looking in, we'd be guessing.
It's a slightly forced smile from Taylor Adams, isn't it? We know the heartbreak he suffered not playing in the Pies premiership last year, and now he's staring down the barrel of a similar fate again. It's probably out of his hands at the moment. He wasn't brought in as the late inclusion. Robbie Fox came in with Callum Mills going out, so you've got to think he probably isn't going to play next week. But boy, these guys have earned the right to be there next week, and they're going to give it one hell of a tilt.
What about Luke Parker? We spoke about him so much in the early parts of the season about whether it would be possible for him to work his way back into this side. He had the suspension, and now this will be a fifth grand final. Yeah,
incredible effort by him. Mind you, it wasn't a huge contribution from Luke Parker tonight, as we see the Milestone boys getting cheered off. 200 for Isaac Heeney and 250 for Dane Rampy.
What a way to celebrate a milestone in a preliminary final, booking a berth to the decider.
But all rather a bigger celebration next week, though, Sarah.
You're right, there is a level of keeping things in check tonight because they know they've got a much bigger goal on their agenda next Saturday in Melbourne, and they sit back, they wait and they watch.
Yeah, they will, and they're going to have a formidable opponent whichever way it goes. I mean, the Brisbane Lions, we know, are in great form, and then maybe they want another crack at Geelong again and want to take them on, but they'll sit back and watch and plan to see who they're going to take on. But as we said, this group, they've got winners everywhere. They've got a lot of experience, but some youngsters that have played a lot of footy. Cunningham missed out in the grand final a couple of years ago. He's redeemed himself and become an important, lockdown defender. So there's stories everywhere out of this one, and just well done to the Sydney Swans Football Club.
Stars win your big games. We talk a lot about them. It's a star-driven league now, and they've got half a dozen frontliners. And when they play like this, they're a different team.
Yeah, spot on. And the big guns showed up again, and they led from the front. They had a lot of contributors, but as we've said all year, when your best three to five players play better than the opposition's, which was absolutely the case today, you get the result more times than not.
I can't wipe the smile off his face there.
Absolutely.
That's
How
great,
exciting. He was awesome. The 2 goals, I mean, he had 21 touches, but the 2 goals were worth their weight in gold.
I just love his wheels. I mean, when he gets going, he's got a burst of speed that can leave people standing still. He's got the best acceleration, I think, in the game. He's got great vision. He uses the ball beautifully, and then he can finish okay too. Look at that one, off a couple of steps from 55. This guy doesn't have to have 30 possessions to control the game. And he only had low 20s, I think it was 21 tonight. he can do so much damage with 20 possessions.
Well, he went at 86% by foot, so that's the point. I mean, he didn't waste a kick. And as you said, every time he gets the footy, he bursts with it, his speed and his run. And he's not alone. There's probably 8 to 10 Swans players that have got that turn of foot when they get possession, and that just broke the hearts of Port Adelaide the longer the game went. And we know how well he played Kingy a couple of years ago in the grand final. Despite that hiding, I think he's made for the big stage.
You need your guns to play with this sort of arrogance. They can't be tackled. They can't be stopped.
There's no one harder to tackle in the game than Chad Warner right at this point.
He got the best breaks in footy too. He can stop in one step. He's a beauty. Look, I think hearing him speak then, we learned some lessons last time in the grand final. You've got to be tougher. You've got to be more ferocious. I can't help but think that they've modelled the game around the Patrick Dangerfield performance in that first quarter where he ripped their heart out. I feel like this is burnt for 24 months with this group, and they're ready now. We saw it tonight. Maybe they weren't that model at clearance, but around the ground with their ball movement and their influence on the game, I just feel like they've learned so much, Sarah, and they're ready for this occasion now.
Well, one person who looks absolutely ready, it is Isaac Heeney. He starred again tonight, and he is our forward F-150 big play today, because not only did he kick a couple of goals, he had 24 disposals, 12 of them were contested, and 8 score involvements. He was in absolutely everything.
Yeah, 6 clearances as well. And you've got to remember, he was doing this with Willem Drew going to him, who's one of the better taggers in the competition. So he just had to continue to work. It wasn't an easy, he wasn't going to get ball easy. You know, you can see him there, he had a big battle, and he just kept working himself into the contest. And if it wasn't around the clearance or around the contested ball, he'd drift forward and he'd have influence there, whether they were targeting him, kicking the ball to him in the pocket, or him getting to work around contest. He was sensational again, and this has now just become his level. Jason, he does this week after week, doesn't he? It's no longer, you know, every couple of weeks. This is such a consistent performance now from him.
Well, I reckon one thing that stands out when I watch him is he just thrives on competition. He wants to be challenged. He loves being challenged, and the bigger the challenge, the higher he rises. He's a genuine star of the game. He's had a superb season, and he'll be looking to cap it off next week, but he's become so critically important for them, like Warner and Gulden have. I mean, it's going to be so difficult, whoever plays them next week. Pick your poison. Who do you try to stop? How do you try to prevent them from dominating contests and having such a big impact?
It is amazing, and a lot of things in football happen by accident. The injury to Mills in the pre-season, or Mad Monday last year, rocked the Swans. The devastation. We've lost Mills, one of our prime movers in the midfield for the first half of the season. What do? Well, we're going to go with Isaac Heeney and see if this works. See if it works. My God, he's been the best player in the competition. So things can happen by accident, but he's made the most of it, grabbed it with both hands, and look at him go.
Might not get the Brownlow medal, but he might get a premiership and a Norm Smith instead.
Well, if you project forward, it's hard to imagine if the Swans were to win anyone other than one of the big three winning the Norm Smith medal, because they're just game breakers. They just get it done week after week, Jake.
They're spoiling it for everyone else, Sarah. Unfortunately,
it's
it's tough being a Swans teammate of these guys. They are taking all the kudos, and deservedly so. I mean, look at the way they rank. They are just... They're the ones that actually drive this Swans outfit. So as long as they get a peripheral contribution around them, they're just so hard to stop, and that's why they've had such a big year to this point in time.
It's been a long time, I think, since we've seen 3 midfielders have as much influence on a team in a season. I think we're going back to the Kirk Cousins-Judd days, the Brisbane days, even Ablett, Bartel.
And goal-kicking midfielders,
that's
like
right.
they're hitting the scoreboard.
The score involvement, the impact that they have, not just winning the ball, but to set up score, particularly that first half of the year and what they've done. It has been enormous, and you're right, you'd be betting on one of those 3 to win the Norm Smith medal if you were, because all of them have influence every week.
So they need more from Grundy.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. He got beaten tonight.
They got well beaten tonight. And that first half, if that happens next week, you wonder whether they can still have the performance that they had tonight with ball movement, save them at clearance and contest.